I should have known the night was doomed the second we walked in. It was supposed to be a simple housewarming party. My coworker had finally scraped together enough for a down payment on a starter home, and he wanted to show it off. I figured Eva and I would swing by, share a drink or two, laugh with some colleagues, and head home. Instead, the moment we crossed the threshold, Eva spotted the bartender, Nate, some guy she used to know, and it was like I ceased to exist. She pressed a hand to his forearm, leaned across the bar with that exaggerated giggle I'd come to know too well, and let her eyes linger like she was auditioning for his attention. Meanwhile, I stood there holding 2 drinks, looking like the hired help, not her boyfriend. I could feel the sideways glances from my coworkers. Nobody said anything, but silence in a room like that speaks louder than words. I told myself to shake it off. It wasn't the first time she'd pulled this stunt. Usually, I'd wait until we got home, bring it up, and she'd brush it off with the same line. "That's just how I am, Adam. Don't be insecure." I'd swallow it down, convince myself I was being too sensitive, and let it go. But that night, I couldn't. Something inside me had shifted. When I finally leaned over and said quietly, "Eva, maybe tone it down a little. It's making me uncomfortable," I expected her to roll her eyes, maybe sigh, and dismiss me later. Instead, she straightened her back, loud enough for everyone around to hear, and fired the shot that ended us. "If you don't like how I act, there's the door." The room went still. Conversations dipped. Glasses clinked in the background, but all I could hear was my pulse pounding in my ears. My coworkers, people I'd known for years, looked at me like they weren't sure if I'd laugh it off or explode. Eva stood there smirking, thinking she'd boxed me into a corner, that I'd back down like always. But something broke free in me at that moment. I wasn't embarrassed, I was done. I set both drinks on the counter, looked her straight in the eye and said, "All right then, no theatrics, no shouting, just 3 words." Then I walked out. The cool night air hit me like a slap of reality. For the first time in years, I felt clarity instead of confusion. She thought she had me on a leash, thought I'd keep playing the part of the jealous boyfriend she could control with a smirk and a guilt trip. But she underestimated me. She forgot who I was before I let her twist me into knots. A man who built his own life, paid his own way, and didn't need someone tearing him down to feel whole. I walked across the street to my truck, the one constant in my life, a battered but faithful F-150 I'd kept running with my own hands. Sliding into the driver's seat, I gripped the steering wheel, the leather worn smooth from years of calloused palms. I didn't feel regret. I didn't feel fear. What I felt was a strange, steady calm, like I just cut loose a weight I'd been carrying for too long. Through the windshield, I saw shadows moving inside the house. Eva leaning across the bar again, pretending nothing had happened. My coworkers whispering to each other, probably wondering if I'd be back. But I knew they wouldn't see me walk through that door again. She gave me an out. For years, she'd been testing the boundaries, daring me to finally call her bluff. And tonight, in front of everyone, she handed me the cleanest exit a man could ask for. So I took it. I turned the key, the engine rumbled to life, and I pulled away without a single glance back. When I pulled into the driveway that night, the house didn't feel like mine anymore. It hadn't in a long time, truth be told. What once was supposed to be a home had turned into a stage where Eva acted out her drama, and I played the fool, waiting for scraps of respect. But not tonight. Tonight, I walked inside with a purpose. I grabbed boxes from the garage, the same ones I'd used years back when I helped a buddy move, and started filling them. Shirts, boots, tools, photos I actually cared about. No hesitation, no second guessing. My hands worked steady, and for the first time in years, my chest wasn't tight. It felt like every item I packed was a piece of myself I was reclaiming. Surprised me how calm I was. I thought I'd be angry, breaking things, cursing her name. But it wasn't anger. It was a relief, like finally stepping out from under a roof you didn't realize was collapsing on you. I didn't have to beg, didn't have to explain. She'd said the words herself. "If you don't like how I act, there's the door." And I'd taken the invitation. By midnight, I had a neat stack of boxes by the front door and my toolbox in the truck bed. The place was quiet, but my head wasn't buzzing with the usual questions. Am I overreacting? Did I push too hard? Should I wait for her to calm down? That mental hamster wheel had finally stopped spinning. At 2 a.m., headlights cut across the curtains, and Eva stumbled in, reeking of cheap wine and perfume that wasn't hers. She dropped her purse on the counter and stared at the boxes like they were foreign objects. "What the hell are you doing?" she slurred. "Leaving," I said simply, sliding another box into the truck. She laughed, the mean kind of laugh that had been her favorite weapon. "Oh, come on, Adam. You're really going to be dramatic about this? You'll be back tomorrow. You always are." I didn't even bother answering. I just kept moving. Her voice pitched higher. "You're seriously packing? Over that? You're so insecure. It's pathetic." I finally looked at her, not with the anger she expected, not with pleading, but with the kind of look a man gives when he's finished digging a hole and knows there's nothing left to shovel. "You told me the door was open, Eva. I'm just walking through it." For once, she didn't have a comeback. She stood there, mascara smudged, mouth hanging open, watching me carry out the life she thought she controlled. By dawn, the truck was loaded. I took one last look at the place. The mismatched furniture, the sink full of dishes she never washed, the half-empty wine bottles that told the real story of our nights, and I felt lighter walking out than I ever had walked in. Driving away, the sunrise cracked the horizon, painting the sky on fire. I realized I wasn't mourning. I wasn't broken. I was breathing, really breathing, for the first time in years. Her pleas, her insults, her cycle of drama. All of it bounced off me like rain on steel. She no longer had the power to twist me up inside. I wasn't the insecure man she'd trained me to be. I was just Adam Walker again. And that was enough. Dylan's place has always been my second home. He's the kind of guy who keeps a fridge full of beer, a couch that's seen better days, and a door that never really locks. When I showed up at his doorstep with my truck full of boxes, he didn't even ask questions. Just opened the door, clapped me on the shoulder, and said, "Spare room's yours." That was Dylan. Loyal, steady, never nosy, but always watching out for me. I'd been there maybe 2 nights when Eva came knocking. I heard her voice before I saw her. Sharp, urgent, the kind of voice that carries down a hallway whether you want to hear it or not. "Adam, we need to talk." I set down my coffee mug and braced myself. Dylan looked up from the recliner, raised an eyebrow, and muttered, "Guess the storm followed you." When I opened the door, Eva was standing there in full performance mode. Perfect makeup, tears right on the edge, but not enough to run. She spotted Dylan behind me and plastered on that fake smile, like she thought she could charm her way into neutral territory. "Adam, please," she started, reaching for my arm. "You're overreacting. I didn't mean what I said at the party." Before I could answer, Dylan stood up. The man's 6'3", built like he was carved out of a steel beam, and normally so laid back he looks half asleep. But not then. He walked right to the door, put himself between us, and crossed his arms. "You told him to leave," Dylan said flatly. Eva blinked, stunned. "Excuse me?" "You told him, and everyone in that damn room heard it. Don't stand here pretending you didn't." His voice was low, but it had weight like a hammer hitting steel. I watched her face twist, searching for a new angle. "It was a joke. Everyone knew I didn't mean it." "No," Dylan shot back. "What everyone knew was you humiliated him. And now you're shocked he actually listened? That's not his problem. That's yours." For the first time in years, I saw Eva off balance. She wasn't used to anyone calling her out. With me, she'd always managed to spin it, twist the words, make me doubt what I'd heard or seen. But Dylan wasn't playing that game. I leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, just watching. It hit me in that moment. How much of my life I'd spent second-guessing myself because she told me to. How many times I'd swallowed the truth in front of her because she'd trained me to. But standing there with Dylan, it was like someone held up a mirror. The manipulation wasn't subtle anymore. It was obvious. She turned back to me, her voice softening, that old routine sliding into place. "Adam, don't do this. You're throwing away everything we built together. Please, just come home." I almost laughed. Built together? I'd paid the bills, carried the weight, swallowed the insults. She built nothing but walls. Dylan cut in again, his tone final. He's not going back, and you're not welcome here. Time to go. Eva's mouth opened, but no words came out. She just stood there, eyes darting between us, realizing for once she didn't hold the upper hand. Then, with a sharp exhale, she spun on her heel and stormed off down the walkway. The door clicked shut behind her, and Dylan looked at me, shaking his head. Man, she really thought you'd never call her bluff. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. She's been conditioning me for years, Dylan, making me doubt myself. But hearing you lay it out like that, it's like I finally see it for what it is. He clapped me on the back. Good, because you deserve better. And she damn well knows it. For the rest of the night, we sat in the living room, 2 cold beers sweating on the coffee table, watching a game neither of us cared about. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't crazy. Like maybe walking out that door had been the smartest move of my life. Going back to the apartment was like walking into a crime scene. The air was heavy, stale, like the place itself knew what had happened there. I wasn't returning for her. I was returning for my things. The rest could rot where it sat. When I opened the door, Eva was waiting, perched on the couch like some actress mid-rehearsal. She smiled sweetly, her voice honeyed. Adam, I made coffee. We need to talk. I didn't sit. I went straight to the closet, pulled out a duffel bag, and started filling it with clothes. She followed me like a shadow. Look, I overreacted at the party, she said, voice soft, hands ringing. I was drinking. You know how I get when I drink. I zipped the duffel, tossed it by the door, and moved to the dresser. She switched gears immediately, her tone sharp. You're really doing this? Over one comment, you're blowing everything up because you can't handle me being social? I stopped, looked her square in the eyes, and said, it wasn't one comment, Eva. It was years of them. And you're right about one thing. I can't handle it anymore. Her smile cracked, and for a moment, the mask slipped. Then she tried another angle. She reached out, touching my arm gently. Baby, come on. Don't throw this away. We're good together. You know I love you. That old line used to work. Not anymore. I pulled my arm back and kept packing. That's when she dropped the mask completely. Her eyes hardened, and the venom came out. Fine, go ahead. See how you feel when you're living in some crappy studio, eating microwave dinners because you couldn't handle a girlfriend who's social. You think anyone else is going to put up with your boring ass? Good luck. It stung. Not because she was right, but because it confirmed what I'd been feeling for months. Love wasn't in her words anymore, if it ever had been. All she had left was cruelty. I stood there, holding a box, and felt a strange calm wash over me. She wasn't tearing me down anymore. She was just confirming I'd made the right call. I loaded the last of my belongings into the truck that night. As I closed the tailgate, I felt my phone buzz. It was a message from my mother. Linda. Heard from Dylan. You okay? Want to come by? I drove straight there. When I walked into her kitchen, she didn't need details. One look at my face told her everything. She set down her teacup, walked over, and hugged me. My mother isn't one for long speeches, but she knows when to cut through the noise. Adam, she said, holding me at arm's length. No woman who loves you throws words like that around. You did the right thing. It hit me harder than anything Eva had said all night. My mother had lived through her own battles. She knew what disrespect looked like. Hearing her say it was like a final stamp of truth. We sat at the table, the old clock ticking in the background, and for the first time in weeks, I felt anchored. Eva's words didn't echo in my head. My mother did. You did the right thing. And deep down, I knew she was right. A few days later, Dylan shot me a text. Check Facebook. You're gonna love this. I opened the app, already bracing myself. And there it was, Eva's big production. A long, dramatic post with a black and white selfie of her crying, captioned, after 3 years of giving everything to a man who never appreciated me, he just walked out. I guess some people don't know how to handle a strong, social woman. The comments came fast. At first, a couple of her usual friends chimed in with the predictable, "You deserve better, queen garbage." But then something shifted. Jake, one of my coworkers, a guy who was at the party, commented, "You literally told him to leave in front of all of us. Don't rewrite history." Emily added, "Eva, I've seen the way you treat him. You humiliate Adam constantly. You think people don't notice? We do." And the kicker? Nate, the bartender she'd been hanging on that night. He wrote, "Don't drag me into your drama. I'm not your cover story. Everyone saw what happened." I damn near laughed out loud. Dylan sent me screenshots, adding, "Bro, the internet just served Eva a reality check with a side of humble pie." Eva tried to push back in the comments, accusing people of being jealous or taking Adam's side because he's a man. But the more she argued, the worse she looked. Even people I barely talked to, friends of friends, started chiming in, saying things like, "I always wondered how Adam put up with that," and "respect to him for finally walking." It was the kind of validation I never thought I'd get. For years, I'd felt like I was the one overreacting, like maybe I was just too sensitive. She had me doubting my own gut at every turn. But here it was proof that other people saw it too. They'd just been quiet until now. I put the phone down, leaned back in Dylan's recliner, and let the relief settle in. This wasn't about revenge or watching her squirm. It was about finally realizing I wasn't crazy. The disrespect had been real. The manipulation had been real. And now everyone else was finally saying it out loud. Dylan grinned, holding up his beer. To walk away at the right damn time. I clinked my bottle against his. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a fool. I felt like a man who'd finally drawn a line and had the world nodding in agreement. The thing about living with someone like Eva is, you don't realize how much you're carrying until you finally set it down. I was the one paying most of the utilities, the subscriptions, the internet, the streaming services, all the boring essentials she never thought twice about. She'd spend money like it grew on trees, but keeping the lights on, that was me. So when I left, I stopped paying. Simple as that. A week later, my phone lit up with a barrage of angry texts. "The Wi-Fi's been cut off." "Really, Adam? You're that petty? Do you think this makes you look mature? Grow up." The power company called me. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I didn't reply. Why would I? I wasn't her safety net anymore. I'd stopped being her ATM the second she told me the door was open. The truth is, I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. She could call it vindictive if she wanted. But in my eyes, it was simple math. You disrespect me, you don't get my support. Actions have consequences, and for once, she was the one living with them. Meanwhile, I was settling into a small corporate housing unit near the office. Nothing fancy, neutral furniture, beige walls, the kind of place that feels temporary. But you know what? It was quiet. No yelling. No slammed doors. No walking on eggshells, wondering what version of Eva I'd be dealing with when I got home. I'd make coffee in the morning without hearing complaints about the smell. I'd eat dinner, sometimes just a sandwich and chips, without someone sneering about how boring I was. The silence was heavy at first, but then it turned into peace. I could breathe again. One night, Dylan came over with pizza and a case of beer. We sat on the couch, the TV muttering in the background, and he looked around. "Not bad, man. You look lighter." I nodded. "It's weird. This place isn't much, but it feels like mine. No strings, no games. Just mine." He smirked. "Funny how turning off the Wi-Fi did more damage to her than you ever could have yelled in her face." We both laughed, and it hit me how true that was. She thrived on control, on pulling strings. Take away the safety net, and her whole act fell apart. A couple days later, I got a voicemail from her. Her voice was sharp, brittle. "You think you're punishing me? You're just showing everyone how childish you are. Nobody wants a man who abandons responsibilities." I listened once, then deleted it. Because here's the truth. I wasn't abandoning anything. I was reclaiming what was mine. My time, my money, my dignity. For years, I carried someone who didn't respect me. Now she had to carry herself, and she didn't like the weight. Lying in bed that night, I realized something important. Anger doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's the steady choice not to play someone else's game anymore. And in that silence, I finally felt stronger than I had in years. It was a Saturday morning when I came back from grabbing groceries, 2 paper bags balanced in my arms, when I saw her, Eva, standing in the lobby of my new building like she owned the place. And next to her was Sarah Coleman, one of our co-workers. I set the bags down carefully, already bracing myself. Eva crossed her arms, eyes blazing. "We need to talk." I shook my head. "No, Eva, we don't." Sarah stepped forward, her hands raised in a kind of awkward truce gesture. "Adam, just hear her out, okay?" I thought maybe I could help mediate. I looked at Sarah, someone I'd worked with for years. She'd always been polite, friendly with both of us, but clearly hadn't seen what I'd lived through. My gut told me Eva had recruited her to make herself look reasonable. "Fine," I said. 5 minutes. Eva launched right in. "Adam, you've been overreacting to everything. I made one mistake at that party, and now you're making me out to be some kind of monster. Do you know how embarrassing this has been for me?" I almost laughed. Embarrassing for her? She hadn't spent years being torn down in front of friends, brushed off like a nuisance, treated like a man who didn't measure up. Sarah frowned. "Wait, what do you mean, one mistake?" "Eva, you told him to leave. We all heard it." Eva's head whipped toward her. "It was a joke. Everyone knew I didn't mean it." That's when Sarah's face changed. She wasn't buying it. "Eva, you've been telling people he abandoned you, that he just walked out for no reason. But if you told him to leave..." Sarah's voice hardened. "That's not on him. That's on you." Eva's mask cracked. "You're supposed to be on my side." Sarah turned to me, her eyes sharp now, her voice carrying. "Adam, I'm sorry. I doubted you. But listening to her now, it's clear. You've been manipulated." Eva sputtered, reaching for her last weapon. "Oh, so now I'm the villain?" "He's not perfect, Sarah. He's boring, controlling, insecure." "Stop," Sarah snapped, her voice cutting like a whip. "Are you seriously blaming him after you told him to leave? What the hell is wrong with you?" The lobby went quiet. A couple of neighbors had slowed on their way past, pretending not to listen but very much listening. Eva's face burned red, her eyes darting between us, realizing her performance had collapsed. I picked up my groceries, calm as stone. "We're done here, Eva. Don't show up at my building again." Sarah stepped closer to her, lowering her voice, but the words carried enough. "You wanted me here to back you up. Instead, you just showed me the truth. You've lost." Eva's mouth opened, then closed. For once, she had nothing. She turned and stormed out, heels clicking on the tile, humiliated in front of both of us, and the neighbors who'd already be whispering before the doors closed behind her. Sarah let out a long breath. "Adam, I owe you an apology. I believed her at first, but seeing it firsthand, she twists everything. You didn't deserve that." I nodded. "Took me a long time to figure it out, but I'm done being her puppet." Sarah smiled faintly, almost sad. "Then good for you. Some men never get out." As she left, I carried my groceries upstairs, heart steady, not racing. Eva had lost her last chance to rewrite the story, and I'd gained something better than revenge. The truth spoken out loud, not just by me, but by someone who'd finally seen through her. After the lobby scene, Eva vanished from my day-to-day life. She didn't call, didn't text, at least not to me directly. But I still saw the ripples. Cryptic posts on her social media, black and white selfies with captions like, "Sometimes love isn't enough," or "Healing is a lonely road," the usual sympathy bait. I didn't comment, didn't engage. Let her chase attention from strangers. She wasn't my problem anymore. Meanwhile, I started sleeping better. No late-night fights. No waking up to accusations or icy silence. Just rest. Real rest. I'd forgotten what that felt like. I started cooking simple meals again, eating without criticism. I dropped a few pounds, not from stress this time, but from finally taking care of myself. Dylan noticed it first. "Man, you're glowing." Who knew peace was the best diet? Even my mother, Linda, saw the change. One Sunday over coffee at her kitchen table, she said, "Adam, I can see your shoulders aren't carrying the same weight anymore. You look like yourself again." And she was right. I was laughing again. Not the forced chuckle I'd used to smooth over her barbs, but real laughter. Then came the surprise call from Sarah. "I just wanted to say," she began, "I'm sorry for doubting you. I've been thinking a lot since that day in the lobby. You deserved better all along." I thanked her, told her no apology was needed. Still, it meant something. To have people see it clearly, to have them admit I hadn't been crazy. That validation was worth more than anything Eva could post online. Life didn't magically transform overnight. I still had bills to pay, a smaller place to get used to, and the quiet sometimes felt too big. But in that silence, I found freedom. No eggshells, no manipulation, just me breathing for the first time in years. I even started dating casually, grabbing dinner with a woman Dylan introduced me to. Nothing serious, but the respect was there, natural, easy. I realized how starved I'd been for that simple exchange, for someone to see me as a man, not a target. One night, sitting on my small balcony with a cold beer, I thought back to that moment at the party. Her voice cuts the air. "If you don't like how I act, there's the door." She thought those words would keep me in line. Instead, they set me free. Sometimes the healthiest thing a man can do is walk through the door someone else opens. And once you step through, you don't look back.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.